John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Didn't sleep a wink, did you?
Hey.
Robert, that girl, Alina. Why?
I couldn't tell you why. It mattered why what they did to her, that mattered to me so much. One day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew. Man, you do something about it, because you can.
Because it's who you are? And you've always been? Sometimes we make the wrong choices to get to the right place. I know a part of you died when Vivian did. But not the part she loved the most. Go be him.
Yeah.
Don't forget to say goodbye.
Bye.
Everything all right? Were you able to help him?
He didn't come for help. He came for permission.
Hey guys, under Hodge, 7 of Truth, Infinite Potential Healing with you once more. Thank you for finding me, and if you've been here a while and following me for a bit, I thank you for that investment of yours, and if you're new, welcome. Interesting times, 2022, time just keeps going. So yeah, I just want to offer you a bit of a tangent from the previous recordings, and it's a little bit simpler for me because it taps into some memories and experiences that I haven't shared. So I think are pretty epic, and also they'll be pretty cool for to offer you as a reference of an overlay, not only just me for discernment further and stuff, but also might be an interesting overlay of things that you don't know that you're doing around you, because integrity is part of you, authenticity and operating with a foundation of truth and all that sort of stuff is just a default aspect of who you are as well. What you're probably starting to realize is it's actually quite rare and courageous, right? So what I'll do is I'll just get into the sort of stories. I didn't realize I was a bit of a storyteller, and some people like that. And then I'll see what comes up after it and stuff, right? So this will be Infinite Potential Healing Part 4. I might call it the wrong place, wrong time, right thing sort of thing, randomness. Because what you might think is what you think, but if you've got a boss like Earth, she might just, no, I'm going to plonk you over here and we'll see what happens, alright? See what you do in your innate, what your nature brings out in you in that scenario, alright? Because we're constantly tested all the time, right? And a lot of people, they don't realize they fail the tests. And what I know is the tests are, like I've said a lot in my releases, is there were certain scenarios that I was in, and you know, there could be money or fame or fortune or something, or there's another door, the unseen door, which is not what most people would choose based on the 3D 5 sense material aspects of our reality. But if you go through that door, that can be where the gifts and benefits you can't even comprehend are and stuff. So I know I've been tested a lot. I know I've probably failed more than I even can comprehend, and that's all good. We all do that. We're born into this unawareness realm, which I've sort of been I've been generous in the past, saying it's muzzies are out. Alright, I've been generous in the past, saying, you know, it's been designed for this and many things to get resolved. But what I've pulled back on that is that I've realized it's a bit more deliberate and sinister, and it's by design to keep us not able to get out of the problem scenario that we're in. And I come from an IT consultant, go into the worst situations and resolve them when no one else can, sort of thing. And I wasn't the best, I was pretty good, but I worked with some really phenomenal geniuses, and I like to measure myself against them and try and escalate my game, sort of thing. And all the mental sort of crisis scenarios of being the one that everyone expects to solve things and stuff. So I've lived that my life. So I do the metadata sort of data accumulation to get an output of an algorithm, sort of thing. And when things don't add up, then I you know, like from a sales IT perspective in a business, everyone should win-win. What's the win-win outcome for everyone and stuff? And when there isn't something, there's a distortion in that distortion. If I've shown you those diagrams at the start or overlaying this, to me it's like I've talked about my story when I went back to my early currency trading days or my stock trading days and I lost money. sure, there's pain with losing money, but then it's like the algorithm I was using that brought about that loss. I was feeding my algorithm false information. So the way I work is if shit happens, I want to know the cause of the shit. So I was just like laughing at myself, and you know, I'm 45, so I grew up in the 80s, and many of you probably love Ferris Bueller's Day Off and stuff. And the best scene, I was telling an ally of this, the best scene I love in that is where Ferris is talking to the camera and he goes, $10, says Cameron sitting in his car going, he's going to call me, he's going to call me. So the metaphor of that is when shit happens to me, it's like I'm going to make everyone else feel like Cameron because I'm going to work it out. He's going to work it out. He's going to be relentless. He's a dog without he's a dog with a bone. Like, he'll never let go, and he wants to know because I fucking hate consequence that doesn't add up, you know. And my naivety with people is that everyone has the same outcome, everyone values everyone else, and everyone wants the best for everyone else, but when that doesn't work out, it reveals agendas, and that distortion outcome offers a lot of data, offers a lot of stuff you can go into and research and stuff. So, and then you can come to the conclusion and you realize, holy shit, alright, and then you realize you had a gap, and then you integrate that frequency of what happens in as a variable in your algorithm of tuning into people, and yeah, you can reverse engineer people very easily and stuff like that. So that's just a bit of an intro and stuff. So what I'm going to do in this Infinite Potential Healing Part 4, and my aim is to actually do an infinite potential healing based on chips and etheric implants and stuff, which is a bit of a speciality of mine. And I feel when I get, it's going to be a bit of effort, like a pretty serious investment to create and stuff, and create a lot of clips of videos and stuff like that, to put it sort of together to give people a reference of it. Because like I said, when I create this stuff, my aim is to give you a packet download of metadata so you can overlay it in yourself, and perhaps a lot of you don't realize you're probably doing it as well. You haven't strengthened the muscles for the sensitivity, but I feel just because you're not aware doesn't mean you're not doing it. So like I said about the integrity and truth and honor and value and seeking a win-win outcome for everything and everyone you deal with. And I'll show you some diagrams at the end and stuff or during it, but maybe in this moment there's a cost and stuff, but you're thinking of the bigger picture outcome, and it's a beneficial investment to the greater scales, and you might not get the return of the energy investment now, but it comes back to you compounded down the track, alright? So I might show you those images I just drew quickly. So what I'm going to do is talk about 3 particular random pretty awesome healing experiences I went through, 2 in 2010 and 1 in 2014. And the reason why I'm doing that is, like I said, they're pretty cool stories of mine and stuff, but I've been very deliberate in offering my level of my own self-understanding about me, and it took me 10 years to get to here, sort of thing. But it doesn't mean I've been doing this level of work for 10 years. It's my own self-recognition, and that self-recognition after a thoroughness of being humble like the dust, like I said, the quote Ram Dass, reduce yourself to zero, your power becomes infinite. Going very, very low on myself, but being open to all that there is, and just because you don't get validation or people don't acknowledge you and stuff, that's where you give yourself the self-acknowledgement, and that's where you don't get the appraisal and stuff. You get the power and the growth, because perhaps you're actually way beyond most of them anyway, alright? And if you're trying to, work at their level, it's like you've already moved on, alright? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people recognize you or acknowledge you. You own it yourself what you did, and just embody it. And because you don't get the acknowledgement, you get an actual boost, right? So these scenarios, there's a bit of a pattern with them and stuff. And like I said, wrong place, wrong time, right outcome sort of thing, if that's what I call this. What I've learnt through my life is when you do pretty amazing things for people, there's a cost, all right? There's an energy transfer and stuff. And I remember Douglas Dietrich talking about how he closed the demonic portal, something related to that in the Presidio in one of his lectures. Like he's been around a long time, and he said to do that for someone, there's a cost, all right? So when you do a lot of good for people and you transmute their situation to be something other than what it is, there's an energy transfer and much like awareness, status in life and all that sort of stuff. If you aren't aware of the energy exchange that is going on relative to that, then you can be vulnerable to the influences of the cost, all right? And it took me a long time to know this and learn this, and I don't think anyone says it. And to say that there isn't a cost with transmutation of state and stuff, right? Like think of alchemy, right? You know, like if you've done chemistry, they talk about an energy input, like a flame, like a Bunsen burner under water to boil it. There's a energy cost to transmute the temperature of that state of the water, right? So there's, if you appreciate the electronics and physics and stuff of that sort of mechanics, then what you can do is you can guard against it impacting you. And this again was a very, very long, hard lessons and stuff. Like I've said in the past, my ex-girlfriend was the activator, and I had no concept of narcissists and greed and stuff like that. Then I went into currency trading to understand greed and be entangled in the energies of money, feel it for all it's worth and stuff, and do very well. Like between late 2010 and early 2011, I made 9 times the money I was trading. I was almost dead and gone, literally. Late 2010, I had $7,000. I turned that into 63, and then a lot of things unfolded, and I had to choose life and the situation of my family, and someone else that was, you know, not in a good state of health, who I know I saved their life, right? And so I get much, and I'm just offering that as an algorithm because you can prevent the cost if you know what's going on, I feel, alright? And I was just very naive. So the reason for me going back to the 2010, 2014 era is I was very innocent and very pure in many things, and I had the wonder of a child, you know what I mean? Unpolarized, untraumatized in many respects. I was in the coal face, I call it going from the fire into the frying pan, or going from the frying pan into the fire, where I went from Sydney back to that kitchen that was like a Gozer place in the end of Ghostbusters, alright? And I was in all that, just trying to find a way through it and stuff, and I know for me, I wouldn't be here if I was attached to money. If I let go of the 3D 5 cents things, that's what allowed me to get through it, alright? And that's what, like I said, there is a potential bigger benefit, perhaps down the track, by your choice to navigate the scenarios that you're in and stuff. So I said before I was going to show you a couple of diagrams, and this is a bit of a metaphor of that, alright? And it's just designed to give you a schematic of what goes on, alright? So what I've got here is 2 scenarios, and say the metaphor of these scenarios that I'm talking about here, and many of the things I've been through, I've been naive in the one up the top, right? So you're the reference for situations that other people are in, right? And maybe their scenario, like see that bar graph, is the amount of energy and life force. So let's say call it pranic energy, right? Because I do pranic healing and stuff, and I know when the body gets low, then you become vulnerable to psychic interference and the chips and muscle tears and all that sort of stuff, right? So what I say and I've said is, unless you're in a state of abundance within your life force, like serving, it can be a trap, right? And many times it can be a trap, but there's also a potential of realized stuff that you don't know, and it's just a choice in the moment and that, right? So just say for a scenario that you come across someone in a bit of trouble, right? Maybe they've been through a breakup, maybe they've been in an accident, maybe they've fallen and all that, or they've had a consequence of certain choices and actions and they didn't know the full scale of what they're entangling with, and that could be a good metaphor for many of these things that I talk about, right? And so something happens and there's a cost, and they're into a crisis state of life force relative to the scenario they're in, and they're not able to work it out, because to process situation and transmute things you need the alchemy of the extra abundance life force and stuff to be able to do that, right? So what can happen is their state, their plight, right, requires your involvement and your investment of your energy, your awareness. You know, like to have abundance, you might, like say for instance, you became aware through, you know, like I said, the metaphor of I've done eight hours of research last 10 years, right? So that's had an impact on my life, the concentration and the investment of my time and stuff like that, where most people don't. And so you gain awareness to be able to navigate stuff, and most people haven't done that, so they're naive and ignorant to the scenario they're in, and they're not willing to go beyond the 3D 5 cents and all that sort of stuff. So there's consequence. And so you, like being a guardian of Earth, Hollow Earth on the surface, for instance, might be a shaman and stuff, and you're put in a scenario where you're required to give assistance to get them to the next state. So a lot of these scenarios that I'm going to talk about, it's just my energy field, you know. So I know I clear chips and all blocks and all that sort of stuff. And so what you can take on board is, say if people got entity, it costs you because it jumps on you and stuff and all that. So this is a bit of a metaphor, and I've spoken a lot, but just see that potentially you might come across a scenario and someone's in trouble and it requires time, energy, life force, resources. Say they might be unable to pay their bills, and they might be potentially being kicked out on the street, so you give them money and stuff, and or you lend them, you know, nutrition and all this sort of stuff, your technology, you do free healings and stuff and all that, and that helps them get through it, right? So what can happen to you is you go from an abundance to go into your crisis reserves, and their situation might resolve, but it's flipped, all right? And you become on the bottom, and they move on, all right? It's a very constant thing, all right? But this is what I was saying about the investment in a bigger picture. It might be like that scenario that you're in might be a pay it forward, all right? And you don't know the outcome of whatever's to happen. You're just doing your right thing, and there's an outcome that doesn't add up for you, all right? And there's a consequence on you, but, all right? And this is the big but, all right? And this is me, infinite potential, because I'm open to these angles that, like, this is the stuff that most people won't give weight to in their actions, and this is why I do it. So if we step back from that little example, right? So maybe you do that, all right? Maybe there's a short-term cost and stuff, all right? But maybe you might be the last resort of a scenario that would never resolve unless you do what you do, all right? So then, if you do that and you're governed by a potential, and then that potential, because of your cost, is realized, and then that person goes back into the world and does what they do, which wouldn't have been possible without you doing it. What I trust is there is always a balance, right? There is always a an investment and a return, all right? The system, this is a purist, you know, a very purist, idealist approach to it. The system can, you know, mess with you and all that sort of stuff. You don't know who the people are that you might be dealing with. Maybe they're done that to set you up for a trap, and then the system's ready to come down on you, and that's been the story of my life and all that. But what I'm saying is, my attitude in infinite potential is those things are always possible, and when you get traumatized and stuff, right, and you get burned, right, there can always be a justification for not doing it based on the baggage of a past experience. My attitude is everyone's different. I don't bring the baggage into the moment, and even that potential of wanting to bring that in to justify not doing it, it also, when most people would stop doing it, it's actually a realization of even more potential, because you're willing to go beyond and still being a purist in that, despite what the reality does, because the reality isn't purist or idealist. It's quite often it's like, I remember Warren Buffett's teacher Benjamin Graham talking about the stock market. It's like an irrational psychotic being and stuff, and it will never do what you think. But to me, it's not being governed by the outcome, it's being governed by what is the best I can do in this moment, because that's what I employ into my frequency of my body and stuff, right? You have to put trust into people to doing the right thing, alright? But whatever the cost is, alright, this is what I appreciate, is the returns might not necessarily be monetary. They might be awareness and gifts and talents and responsibilities, and you know, it can be fast tracked to infinite potential sort of thing. Right? So just consider that. Right? It's an interesting scenario, isn't it? And that's, I'm trying to offer you the mechanics how I operate in every moment. What is the potential here? What is the potential with this? And sometimes this is very important as well, is just because you see a solution for a scenario, the greatest potential might not to actually get involved, because they've got a learning lesson here. And if you intervene in that scenario, you might prevent the lesson being learned. And what you do is you actually reward bad behavior because they're meant to get smashed, and then they go on and justify it and cause a lot more destruction, alright, at a greater scale, alright. And then you were the pivot into that. So it can be very dynamic, very complicated. I'm no expert in this, I'm just an expression, and I'm telling you about my experiences and stuff. But in saying that, I actually come with a lot of street credit now, alright, and if I have to own that, because it wouldn't be said, alright, and this is me just owning my power, right? So let's get into the stories. Enough blabbering on, hey. He's gonna say it, making the falsehood feel like Camerons in their car. Like, who wants that, alright? Let's go Camerons. So, the first story, and this first one is about a girl. I found out the name was Maggie, and I just met her once. I think I saw her a second time after this, or I'm not sure, alright? So if you know my story, I returned to Adelaide on the full moon. I drove across Australia of the Monday before Easter 2010, and it was really amazing. There was no one on the roads because Easter in Australia is a big holiday time, and all there were trucks, and it was a full moon. So I was driving in the middle of Australia in the pitch black under a full moon, and it was lit. Right? It was really cool. So this scenario, like not long after that, spoke to my brother, and he asked me to help him. I had all this plan about stock trading and stuff, but I realized, like, in a 2-minute conversation, I realized the bullshit scenario. Cousin that my mum had helped to make very wealthy, and their family had been supported extensively for the decades before, got him into this scenario, and my family has never given a shit about my brother, and so not having a father and my mother dedicating her life to everyone else, and me just like being smashed. And when you go through a lot of trauma, you just try and find, you don't know what's right or wrong, right? And you just try and find your way. Because what can happen, and this is a really cool metaphor, is that, when someone you trust destroys you and does something very bad to you, you lose your boundaries, right? You don't know what's right or wrong. And a lot of people in abusive situations, if you've never been in it from an outsider, you wonder why people do that. But because someone's been abused and their trust has been destroyed, and their self-trust, because they thought they could trust someone and that person they trust destroys them, then you have no reference of what is right or wrong, right? And that's something that's very, very important to realize when you're dealing with people that have been through trauma, right? When their trust has been destroyed or broken, they have no frame of reference, so they don't know how to navigate life, right? So yeah, it was May 2010, I'm pretty sure. And what I used to do at that job, I was the dishy, it's called in Australia. It's like you're the one cleaning everything. You clean all the pots and pans, and then you put the place clean back together after the shift. And it's the worst role, but I was like in MJ mode, like, going into there, I didn't know what was going on. I was just trying to find a way. And it's good weight training. Like, working in a kitchen is like an hour in the kitchen is like an hour in gym, alright? So if you've done pretty heavy workouts and stuff, then go work in a kitchen. So shout out to all you that work in a kitchen. Trust me, I know what it's like, and not many people appreciate that. So one night, it was definitely a Friday. I think it was a Tuesday or Friday. There were nights that were busy, and I used to work late, and I'd usually finish about 10:30 at night, and 10:30 during a weeknight. I was in the biggest shopping centre in my city, and if you don't know, Westfield shopping malls used to be the biggest mall retailer in the world and stuff, and this was the biggest one there, right, in our state. And so those sort of shopping centres are a big nexus point for all sorts of stuff, a lot of energy, a lot of focus, and wanting to be there for all the shopping and stuff. And it also draws a lot of very negative energy. A lot of those places have had deaths in their buildings, so when there's a haunted aspect in them, like when people die during construction and stuff, and so a lot of shoplifters and drug addicts are drawn there as well, like they're looking to do crimes on people and stuff, like it's their nourishment, right? And so I used to know one of the security guards and stuff, and because I was working the venue, I would deal with the security and stuff, so I knew there was a lot of like dirty shit going on and that. So this one night, not long after I returned from Sydney, I was still trying to find my way. I had no direction back then, right? But I had been activated and beaten up by Sydney and my ex and stuff because I was triggering the shit out of her all the time. So this one night, worked my ass off and stuff, just sitting waiting for the buses, and the buses used to come every half an hour. They used to end at about 11:30 at night, and so I was sitting there. I'd probably just missed my bus, I think, so they would come every half an hour, so I was waiting for the 11 o'clock bus. And it's a bus depot where maybe 20 buses 10 on each side can stop, so it's a huge bus transport interchange sort of thing for the big shopping centre. So I remember just sitting there. I love music, you know, I'm used to DJ and stuff, so I'd always just, well, I've just got to chill and meditate. Not that I was into meditation then, I hadn't even found my meditation teacher and stuff, but, you know, you had half an hour to kill, so I was there. I reckon I was sitting on this very specific seat next to where the bus that I need to catch comes and stuff, so I think there was maybe two people on this huge soccer or football oval size sort of bus depot and stuff, and this girl, she came from my left from the car park in the shopping centre, and she sort of basically, she came up to me, right? And she was like, this whole seating area, there's like probably 50 seats, alright, like bench seats that are all next to each other just to help wait for stops, like wait for the bus and stuff, because a lot of people usually are there and stuff. She comes up to me and she goes, "Oh, can I sit there?" And I was like, yeah. She wanted to sit on the same seat next to me and stuff, right? And so, long story short, we started talking and stuff, and if you've listened to my stuff, you know, a couple of the things I've done are based on not having regrets based on love, right? So I chose to go to Sydney in love. I didn't want to give up love. The idea of me going to Sydney was also because of our family scenario and the poverty. It was an opportunity to earn double or 2 times or 3 times the money to help prepare for what was to unfold with my family, right, the way it was. So there was a couple motives, but the primary one was I didn't want to regret being comfortable, not giving love a chance, like giving love everything. I could always make money, I could always have a job, but love is very rare, I felt. So it was the variable that was the motive to go. And I didn't know she was psychopath and manipulative and all this sort of shit. I was very naive to that. The second thing about love was when my ex had her fall and she was suicidal and I had to go, the irony, I got sent to a project that was 2 hours away from the city, let alone outside of the home, so it was a 2.5 hour trip each way, and I had to work outside business hours to do this project as well. So I was doing 14-hour days at this project right when my ex was like falling apart, and then I'd come home and she'd be like faking suicide. She'd have all like 50 pound like Nurofen sort of codeine tablets all on the bed, like in a pillow, just like when I came home she'd have like basically all the shit that she was gonna kill herself with lying there as a message to me, shit like that, just trying to totally fuck me up, right? So the reason I was in Sydney was for her, and I didn't want her to die on my watch, right? So when I chose love and her over money, that was my activator, right? So I just say that because, you know, people can't tune into the level of love that I've lived, right? They think I don't love, but it's like I've clocked the game on love, and that was my activator, and I'm very proud of what I did, right? I'm not letting pride be an issue, but it's like people talk a big game, but they don't live it. They don't do it when it's on, right? So being willing to give up everything and the money and stuff based on love, I have a pretty good understanding of it. And the reason why I'm saying this is, you know, like I lived that, and I didn't have many people that could understand. Like when I was in Sydney, it was like they thought I was crazy. Like, what are you giving up money for a gal, you know? And I just like, I thought it was something amazing, generous and stuff. And I thought, you know, like if we're going to get married and stuff, it would be like truly grateful for being there. You know, there's the line for richness and poor, for in sickness and health, and I had lived it. I was there, but the insane outcome is that distortion that you can tune into, because then it gives you a lot, you know, like I said, the win-win. So there's what is in that distortion energy, and that you can unpack that. So again, like, the reason for me saying this is there's not many I could talk to on love like that. So this girl, when I found out, she was about 21, so I was like 33, 34. I was quite old compared to her, a lot more wisdom in life and stuff, and she was quite young and naive, or so I thought. And so I was talking very technical on love and stuff, and she would be, her level of wisdom on that, alright, it was like, who the fuck are you? It's like, say if there's love talent, it would be like matched, and it's like, wow, I'm not trying to outdo her or anything, but I was like, I'm very good on the technicals of the emotion. That's why I've got the emotional mastery and all that, sort of splicing up all the different emotions. And it was just like, who the fuck are you? Alright. So we talk like very high level philosophical sort of stuff, and then I find people's stories fascinating. I was like, look, you're pretty young, alright? She was quite attractive as well, and it was like, you know, what are you doing here? All this sort of stuff, and it was like, are you okay, alright? Because she came out when she said, it's like, I'm looking for you, Andre. Can I sit there? And I was like, sure, you know. But then it quickly unfolded as something really serious. And so, in order to understand and get a foundation of how to operate, I always do this sort of interrogation with people and get the data points to have a comprehension to do what I said in the empathy sonar video, like pretty early on, about using sonar to use your empathy to like the Batman Dark Knight Rises, when he used the technology to, the Dark Knight Batman movie, where they were trying to get the Joker and use all the phones for the sonar, like a bat uses sonar. So that's that video I did a while ago, where you can employ your sonar or your empathy as a sonar. So I started asking her about all the stuff that was going on, and she was in a lot of trouble. What she said is, I've just come back from a drug rehabilitation sort of place, and I've just had more drugs. I couldn't stop myself. And what she said is, her mother had kicked her out many times and stuff, and she said that was the last straw. If you do it again, like, totally disown her. And she'd actually gone through and had drugs, and she couldn't, she just had them, and she knew she was in trouble. She'd crossed the line. It was last resort sort of scenario. And so I said, why do you do it? What happened and stuff? And so I sort of got into her story and stuff, and I said, why is your mum like that? And she said, my mum is a principal of a very prestigious Catholic girls' school, right? So she's very conservative and stuff. And she said what happened is, when she was 14, and her family isn't wealthy, right? But a lot of wealthy kids and stuff went there, so there's a bit of a societal difference and stuff. And so she was an outsider, not being wealthy and stuff, because there's all hierarchical bullshit relative to greed and stuff. It's like the saying I say, like Gandhi's quote of, there's enough in this world for everyone's need, there's never enough for anyone's greed. And when you're on the greed path, there's never enough, and then it's all competitive and who's better than everyone else and more blah blah blah. So I already knew that, right? I was in currency trading and stuff, and I said, what happened? Like, when did so she was like sort of she saw, and the way the other kids act to her at school, saw her as less. And so one day she said she had some friends, and they were very like, you imagine you're in a litter, you're the runt, right? And you do what everyone else does to be seen as popular, especially peer groups and stuff like that. So she said when she was 14, she was with a couple of the girls who were friends, 3 other friends, and they started taking drugs and speed and pretty hard drugs and stuff, I guess. And one day they decided to get a Ouija board out, right? So I'm cutting to the chase sort of thing. It was really amazing chat. So I'd been at the bus stop. I'd missed my bus, so I was waiting for the next bus sort of thing and stuff. And this girl found me, came and sat next to me, and we started getting into this, and it was like, holy shit, it's pretty serious. I'm being very deliberate on where I was very naive and stuff, alright? With this girl, I can't, like, worst case scenario, and I'll get into how bad it was for her. So what would happen is we were talking for a long time, right? And I'll get into how long it is. So the scenario was she was in a bad situation. There was no solution and stuff. I was getting into a story. So when she was 14, could have been 16. This is 12 years ago now, which is crazy to even think about. The four of them together were playing with a Ouija board. They got drugs and alcohol and stuff, so they're off balance, and they were playing with a spiritual toy, alright? Well, it's not actually a spiritual toy. It's a conduit for interacting with whatever you don't know, alright? And the last video I talked about, alright, like we're in an invasion, alright? So, yeah, it was like, wow, that's crazy. And what she said was, out of the four, alright, two had killed themselves, alright? The other one was in an insane asylum, and this one, she became like a drug addict in a, I'll get into a bit more of the story because it was basically like a pretty epic level succubus sort of stuff, right? So obviously that opened something on the drugs. If energy field was open, alright? So if I show you the psychic defense sort of thing. So I've shown this one before, but say on the drugs and stuff, it disarms you, and the drugs can be all haunted and shit like that, alright? Let alone using a technology of a Ouija board, alright, to give a mediumship or a portal for whatever is out there, a space to come through, alright? So yeah, some four very young, naive girls play with something that they shouldn't have, in a state that they shouldn't have, right? So what happened to her is, didn't know what happened. And when you get entities and stuff, and this is what most people don't realize, and this is what I've actually worked out with a lot of the high level people that I know that have been having polarity issues towards them, is shit can get put into your energy field that polarizes people towards you, against you, right? So there's a frequency in you that gets inserted that is rejection from other people. It's like a kryptonite to them, alright, if I use that metaphor. And it doesn't matter what you do and stuff, there's a repelling towards you for it, alright? You think you're saying like the algorithm of words they need to hear or doing the right thing, and it doesn't matter, alright? Most people are ignorant and naive to the frequency stuff and that, so shit can get inserted. This is like rejection shit, etheric implants and stuff. And so that stuff is very, very prevalent, right? It's very common, right? So you might think you're on your game and stuff. Most people have the inability to see themselves as wrong, right? And so you think you're good and you're doing your healing, you're doing your soul bars and stuff, and this stuff is pretty epic, alright? And yeah, like family members and all that sort of stuff can get rejected for you, and it can be an insert. And I'm saying that's a variable that's out there, that's an entry level. That might be a 3 on the 10 scale. This scenario of this girl was like a 15, alright? And so I was like, shit, you know, because I'd written about psychic defense. I'd got all this sort of stuff, so I understood entities and that, but, you know, reading it in theory versus actually living it and experience it is two different things. And there's no teachings in our world that I'm just going to stop. There's no teachings in our world that help us comprehend what's going on, right? Where there's a huge void of understanding, right? Deliberately to set us up for failure, because, you know, said about in the past is that the invasion of Australia was done, right, using haunted, traumatized criminals that were carrying all the entities that go and attack the Dreamtime realm to impose law on the land, sort of thing. So this stuff is known by domination control, but we're not taught it because the system benefits from us being ignorant, right? So I'm just going to stop the video because it's quite long, and I'll start at second file. Was getting to the layers and getting to understanding what went on. And so what happened after this event with these girls, it obviously did a lot of very destructive distortion to their worlds very quick, right? And this particular one, Maggie, right, what happened to her is I told you about her mum was a conservative sort of Catholic principal of a high school. So you imagine discipline. It was like it's like being with the worst nun, you know. And this girl was, the wisdom she had was, like, the spiritual wisdom she had was phenomenal. Like, it didn't add up, all right? So, you know, again, she could have been a Hollow Earth Guardian sort of thing and Indigo Child sort of stuff, right? And the shit on the unseen was just waiting to entangle and fuck her up and distort her and stuff, right? And so not long after this, she said it could have been related to the entity attacking her. It could have been distortion and getting into drugs and stuff. Her whole behavior and all this sort of changed, which was against the moral standard of her mother and stuff. So what she did, her mother kicked her out of home, right? So I think this went on quite a long time, and she obviously went very downhill in school. And it could have been 16, I think, when she said her mother kicked her out of home. All right, that's where I was getting the 14 and the 16 from. And so she was young, you know, it was just ridiculous. And say, you know, the belief systems of the Catholic and sort of stuff, she's like the Antichrist, and doing what she was doing, she was uncontrollable, and the entity was probably influencing her mum, and whatever was entangling with her mum was compounding it. So she got kicked out of home. So in our city, what can happen is you can go, there's sort of infrastructure to prevent people living on the streets and stuff. So there's, for instance, a women's refuge center, right? Because women on the street, particularly very beautiful young girls, are very vulnerable, right? And so she went and found that, and she stayed there, and what she said, you can only stay there for like a month or so. So there's a very short time. And so she lived there that month, and then she got kicked out of there. So she's living on the streets. And on the streets, you have to do prostitution and stuff like that, I think. I think that's what she was doing to get drugs and stuff, right? And then what happened, she said she got entangled with and I don't think she did the prostitution thing, right? But she managed to avoid that. But what a woman would do is use their sexuality to have guys like look after them and stuff, right? And like I said, it was like she was entangling with a succubus, because I'll get into that after, right? Which uses sexuality to hook in people for energy harvest and all sorts of shit, right? So what she said is that, so imagine she's got this entity, it's very negative. There's frequency matches, right? People, like attracts like finds like and stuff. So what she said is like a bikie leader found her, right, and took her in as her girl, right? So yeah, I don't really want to get too graphic and shit like that, alright? But what happens in those bikie sort of gangs and stuff, the women get passed around and used and stuff, so it's very, very violent, very brutal, women can get trapped and stuff, and they just get like plundered and sucked dry and cast away and killed, and on drugs and stuff. So those bikies are very dense energy and stuff. They're like the apex of the worst in the reality, in our reality and stuff. So she was entangled with them, and get access, cheap, free drugs and stuff, and just you imagine like the movies like Taken, all right, what happens to the women and stuff, and I fucking hate that shit. Like, if I want to get angry and fired up, I'll watch Taken and watch what happens to the young girls, and it's like, it's something that really fucking fires me up, right? Like back in my DJing days, I used to go out with my cousin, and she was very, very beautiful, and she would have like 8 or 9 girlfriends, and I would go as a guy, and I would be like they would get hit on all the time, and I fucking hated it. I saw how guys were, and what I'd be like the fake boyfriend. So if someone got hit on and it was like uncomfortable and stuff, then I would like, they would come to me, and if guys have misguided angles, like when you see them, they run, all right? When people, and this is perception, all right? When people get the realization that their actions are transparent, they run, all right? They hide and they cower, all right? Because, if they're doing misguided shit, all right, they don't want it to be seen. And so we're multi-dimensional. It's fucking transparent, all right? It's like you got nowhere to hide, and then you have a life review and you're seen, all right? And then you've got to deal with Earth Mother, all right? So if you're doing messed up shit, it's going to cost you. And it's really interesting. I'll just drop that because I did a pranic healing on Earth, and I know, like, this is what I realized, like, I know at least 2 people have lost their abilities because of the negative shit and the phantom matrix grid work and compromise and all that sort of shit, alright? So, if you read that post on Facebook, I thank you and stuff. I did a pretty big post because I did this pretty epic, like, pranic healing on Earth and stuff, and people are just going to lose their abilities. Like, you do negative shit, it's like easy come, easy go. Alright, so this girl, alright, I'm talking a lot, is so she managed to get away from the bikies somehow and stuff. So she managed to get her way back to home and stuff, and her mother let her in. Obviously she put her into a gave her an ultimatum, like, you got to clean yourself up and all this sort of shit. So she sent her to drug rehab centers to get her clean and shit like that, right? And there were a number of times that she went there, and she'd obviously go and get good and then backslide and stuff like that, because what society isn't willing to accept, and it doesn't want to accept, is a lot of these people that are drug addicts are haunted, and that it's the frequency and the energy given off when the people are high and stuff that these entities feed on and stuff. So they're not going to let go of their nourishment source, you know what I mean? So society's got to shift relative to that, alright? So she'd gone through it a number of times, and her mother was obviously at the wit's end, let alone her belief systems, but like, you try and talk to people that are run by entities, and you think that people are governed by like a win-win scenario, but they're not. The distortion of the outcome and the effect on everyone else is the aim, alright? It's like the anti-win, alright? Like the phantom matrix, like the anti-universe sort of thing. I mentioned in the last video about, the species in Chronicles of Riddick, alright? So so the scenario for this girl, which it took a long time to get to this and understanding, it's like, wow, it's like I was learning a lot, and someone that was really in it. She had this level of wisdom that was just, it's like someone 21 shouldn't know this stuff. Like, I'd been going through all my books and stuff, and I was on a tear. I was reading like a book a day sort of stuff, and I'd got onto my iodine, and my absorption was massive and stuff, and it didn't add up. So whatever was running her was very, very wise and ancient, right? So a lot of it had understandings and stuff like that, right? That's what I'm sort of suggesting here. So it was very interesting interaction, and it governed her soul, I felt, had governed to find me, right? And so it was getting late. It was probably like, I'd been there since 10:30. I think we were talking for about 2 hours, so I'd missed all my buses and stuff. And I was worried about her. It was like really bad. It was like she'd just done the thing that her mother said she would never allow, like, accept, right? She'd gone past. And so she was like, I was like, what are you going to do? And she's like, oh, I'm going to get, there's a friend over there, I'm going to try and get in and stuff. So I said, look, I'll walk you. I'll make sure you're okay. I can get a taxi. This scenario is pretty epic. For whatever reason, you found me and I'll help you. Like, let's go. So I didn't want her, like, young and attractive and vulnerable and stuff. I wanted to make sure she was okay. It was like a risky scenario, I felt. The stuff that, you know, the guardian, the protector in me, like the sentinel that I said in Galactic Special Forces Part 8 relative to that girl and stuff, that aspect of me had kicked in, and it was like, I'm here. The uncomfortable and the interference in my life that's irrelevant, I can get around that, and I can get a taxi and stuff if I need. And that just popped up. So I started walking with her, and I walked over to this place, and she was gonna like knock on this guy's door to get in, and I said, is he a friend and stuff? And he's like, not really and stuff, but I don't really have anywhere to go. And it was like, wouldn't let her in and stuff, and it was like she was switching on me as well. It was like we were talking a lot, and she was like, why are you here? What are you doing? Like, it was trying to get rid of me as well, right? Whatever was running here was trying to get rid of me, and it was like there were two sort of beings I was dealing with and stuff. And so then what happened was this guy was at home, and she was like, well, I have to go home now, right? And I was like, and I said, where's home? And it's like, it's a fair walk, she said. And she was worried about what her mum was going to do and stuff like that. So I walked with her and stuff, and we were talking a lot. And all the while, like, we'd talk, and then all of a sudden she'd switch and she'd go, why are you walking with me? Why are you here? Why is it? I don't understand. And it's like, whatever was running her was freaking out a bit by being in my field, right? That's what I know now, right? And so it was like about an hour and a half walk on top of that. So it was like 1:30 in the morning by the time we got to near wherever her house was, right? And so not long, towards the end of this walk to her house and stuff, the state switched, right? And then all of a sudden, like, I felt all this energy come down on me, right? Like a shower of energy. And we were talking, and we'd been talking and stuff, and I said, what are you doing to me, right? So what was going on, now that I know this, is the entity was trying to use its influence over me to hijack me, right? So it was like in a waterfall of energy trying to influence me, right? And it was like triggering my all aspects, sexuality and all this sort of stuff. And it was like, you know, like I did that drawing, this drawing. It was trying to break open my field and get into me, right? And activate me on all sorts of levels, lower energies and all this sort of shit, right? So it was trying to, you imagine it's like a, it was trying to catch me as its prey, okay? So it was run on this girl, alright? It was on this girl, and it was trying to influence me to get my energy and all this sort of stuff and access to me and all that, and hook me into the trap it was, like you imagine a spider in a spider's web, alright? And it was capturing me in that, alright? Took me in, okay? So the thing with me, like I said, the defense is I've never been give away my power relative to the lower energies and stuff, right? Like I said, I have respect for women. I grew up with only a mother and stuff like that. It's different. And I hated all my mates and all that when they had alcohol and all that sort of stuff. So that shit doesn't work on me, right? So what happened was, what I know is the entity was trying to get me to have sex with her, alright? And I was like, I'm just dumb in some respects and stuff, right? And so what happened, we got to the place where she said, oh, I'm just around the corner. Like, you imagine the road was like this and it went off and across was an oval, right? It was like a roundabout and the road went up 90 degrees up my right side. So you could see over the oval and stuff like that, right? It was clear over the fence. You could see the street lights and stuff like that. So what I did is like, I didn't allow anything to happen. I gave her a hug, right? I just said, look, I'm really sorry this has all happened to you and you don't deserve it. So I gave her a hug, and in that, all right, what I realized is this being was trying to attack me, and it was like, it knew through time that it was going to lose control of its source, all right? I didn't violate her space and stuff. I just said, look, I'll give you a hug, all right? You're an amazing being. I'm so sorry this has happened to you. And gave her some compassion and pure love and stuff. And I know in that hug, what happened, I could feel the shit clear off her. You know what I mean? Like, the heart to heart, pure, like, wanting the best, the potential of this being. I was in the last case scenario for this individual, and she had no one else. She had to go fucking walking, and she just randomly found me, like, in this incredible, like, random scenario. And so there's a responsibility being the last resort. A lot of people, they plunder vulnerability. It's like, nah, it's like, this is an honor to be in the vulnerable state of another, to help them through their worst time. You know what I mean? I've always had that. And so I know, by instead of wanting to plunder her sexually, like giving her support and nourishment on the heart, it was the thing that freed the entity, like the succubus and stuff. And I know, like, the moment that happened, she was gone. She didn't need me. It was like, okay, done, guy, bye. You just, like, spent 3.5 hours until 2 in the morning helping me get home and stuff and clear me. And so I know I cleared all the drug addicts and addiction and all the trauma of all that shit that she'd been through. And she was clear to go home, alright? And this is a real crazy thing, alright? So I got a real boost from it. You know, when you do something like that, you don't know what's going on, but you know, I know the mechanics of these things very, very well now, but that was like, it was like another test, you understand? And I know I passed it, you know, because I didn't go to lower energy sort of levels, and it would have been a massively negative compounding thing for me, because obviously I've got a lot of entities that just want to fuck around with me, alright? So, yeah, this is a crazy thing about this, alright? When I was walking back, alright, I had about an hour walk to get back to the taxi bus stop area and stuff, so as I said, the road I was coming back, I could see across the ovals and stuff, so I got to the roundabout. I didn't want her to really tell me where she lived. It wasn't appropriate and stuff. She needed that as security and safety and all that, so she just went off from my perspective. And I walked back, and obviously it was blissed out, literally, because I know I did something freaking amazing. Right? This is the potential thing that I drew that diagram for and stuff. I did something amazing. I kid you not, right? When I walked back, and I looked back over the oval and stuff, I couldn't see her, right? I could not see her anywhere. And so I don't even know if she was alive, right? I think she could have actually committed suicide. That's what I feel. And she was just an entity that I helped cross over. There's this really cool movie called Odd Thomas that's out there that I highly recommend. It's about this guy that can see entities and stuff, and so that's one possibility. She could have gone into a house really close, but it was 1:30 in the morning, silent, could see everything, could hear everything, and I couldn't see her. It was just like such a really random, amazing, unusual teaching, you know what I mean? So yeah, I walked back and stuff, and obviously this amazing girl that came into my life for just a brief period, I was wondering if I'd ever see her again. I'd always look out for her every time I was at the bus stop at night and stuff like that. The thing I said about her being an entity and stuff, I'm pretty sure I did see her once going up the stairs at this bus stop. So I did see her again not long after that. I had a book and DVD ready to give her, like all documentaries and stuff like I used to do back then. I've still got that CD and stuff, but I never saw her again. And yeah, my heart aches, you know what I mean? It's like this amazing girl, too many variables that didn't add up, you know? And so, yeah, it's just really, really amazing, like, and this is the thing, we always get tested, alright? There's always tests, and you don't know what the tests are. It's about, like I said, about the love thing with my ex and stuff. Yeah, it was like, it's about what do you do in the coalface in the moment. It's not about theory, it's about action in the moment. Your truth gets revealed in the moment, you know? So yeah, it was just really, really, obviously it's a very enigmatic experience. Ouija boards, issues, you know, life on the line, sort of, you know, really tough scenario. And me, just an ignorant, naive, opening up to whatever I was to be, like, was clearing people at that level way back then, right? So I didn't need all this stuff that I've been through, but I'm wiser now, you know what I mean? So let's get on to the second experience, right? Hey guys, Andre Hodge here. I'm just adding this little video to the end of the first part, or the main body of Infinite Potential Healing Part 4 release. As I said, in that main body I've done recordings for 3 particular experiences like that. The first one that I've just shared with you is quite long, and so what I've decided to do is just break them up into 2 separate videos. So I'll do an Infinite Potential Healing Part 5 at another stage, with the other 2 as sort of the main contents, with some other teachings and stuff. So I just want to round this out now, and thank you for finding me. Thank you for having the courage to contemplate some of these concepts, and just realize when I talk about sort of the metaphor of the Michael Jordan last dance sort of thing, and the mystical teaching that is of him being ready to go any second, any time, doing this sort of stuff that can be 24/7, so you never know when it's going to happen. So you've got to be ready to go any moment, and I'm very lucky I did the IT support 24/7 and stuff like that. So yeah, just I hope you gained a lot from this, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you contemplate it deeply, and maybe realize some amazing shit that you've done for people that you didn't even know you did, and you can go back and reverse engineer yourself and see how amazing you are that you didn't realize you were. So thank you guys. Until next time, lots of love. Andre out.
Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Where does your pebble walk to, grasshopper?
It walks. Its journey is to nowhere.
Each journey begins and also ends.
Then the ending is the bottom of the pool.
Does not the pebble, entering the water, begin fresh journeys?
It seems unceasing.
Such is the journey through life. It begins, it ends. Yet fresh journeys go forth. Father begets son, who becomes in turn father, who begets son.
Then the roots I have are me, and I am they.
Grasshopper, seek first to know your own journey's beginning and end. Seek then the other journeys of which you are a close part. But in this seeking, know patience. Wear that traveler's cloak which shelters and permits you to endure.
Master, what is the best way to meet the loss of one we love?
By knowing that when we truly love, it is never lost. It is only after death that the depth of the bond is truly felt, and our loved one becomes more a part of us than was possible in life.
Are we only able to feel this toward those whom we have known and loved a long time?
Sometimes a stranger known to us for moments can spark our souls to kinship for eternity.
How can strangers take on such importance to our souls?
Because our soul does not keep time. It merely records growth.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.